Alright, hi guys. Today we're going to be learning how to do Ghostwriter. So basically the first thing you're going to want to do is cover your eyebrows. There are multiple tutorials on this on YouTube, and you can find them basically on any makeup channel anywhere, so I don't really feel like I need to do a video. Now I kind of sped up this process since it does take a while, and I did a few layers, and basically I just used a spatula to smooth it out to make sure I got an even coverage, because you don't want to have any hairs that stick up. Alright, so for this part I'm going to be using a Mayron. It's a clown white, and this is basically about the most fun part of this makeup, which is total sarcasm, because you get to cover your entire face in this pasty white makeup. And it takes a little while and a few layers, but you know, you'll get there eventually, and just hope you don't scare anybody in your household because they think you're a ghost or something. I think the main problem that I had with this makeup is the fact that it was kind of thick, so you could end up seeing a lot of the brush strokes. So I kind of went back over them in the opposite direction that I did in the beginning, so that it kind of hides that. I also decided to extend it up into my hairline, but you know, you don't have to do that. And I only did that part because I do not have a wig cap, and I could have done a much better video, I think, with a wig cap, but you know, this is for everybody else like me that doesn't have a wig cap, so I basically just went back over until I was satisfied with how even I had gotten the makeup. And then I chose to extend it down onto my neck. I mean, if you're going to do this as a costume, you could definitely consider doing this. What I actually meant to say is a bald cap instead of a wig cap. And so for this next part, you're going to be using an angled brush, and you're going to basically just take any kind of black makeup that you have. I used a Mayron palette, or you could use the Halloween store makeup, you know, whatever you have. You could use eyeshadow as well. It just kind of depends on what you have. I decided to give it a layer of air dry to try to keep it from, you know, mixing with the paint. Alright, so for this next part, I used a couple different reference images of Ghostwriter to figure out how I wanted to do his eye sockets. Because his eye sockets are pretty realistic to his skull, I decided to do them more round than they were in the comic, which were kind of pointed. And I obviously kind of got them a little uneven, which I go back to fix later, but you know, you can go for more of the comic book look. I kind of decided to meld the two in this. I sort of went for a more natural skull looking, but then I kind of added in a little bit of the comic book shading techniques that they use, which I honestly think look really cool, because they use a lot of these like cross hatching and things to give it a lot of depth. And then I went back in and I just kind of did the eye shapes that I saw on the picture. And then for the nose, I originally was planning on doing this two-part nostril thing until I realized this wasn't the way it was supposed to look. So as soon as I realized that, it basically just changed back into the thing, because for some reason I guess I was thinking Jack Skellington, but obviously that's not right. So I fixed that, which you can see here, and I decided to go back over it with more black to fill it in because I wasn't happy with how dark it was. Alright, so this part is probably the one where you have to be the most careful. This is when you're going to draw on the cheekbones of the skull. And again, I was using the picture as a reference, and I tried to make it as even as possible and as accurate as possible. Now obviously, if you get it a little bit off, you can always go back over it, which is fine because we will end up blending that out later. And I tried to kind of keep looking at it a few times just to make sure that it was even on both sides. and then I just went back in again and made sure to outline it and make sure my lines were even. Alright, now with a very small brush we're going to start on the teeth. And the way I did this was I decided to start with the tops of the teeth near where they would be in your gums. This was just easier for me because it was the part that the bottom of the cheek connected to. So I started off with that and I tried to get it as close to the picture as possible, and I decided to do it above my lip instead of directly in the middle of the line of my mouth. So obviously you can tell that the top row of teeth does go onto my bottom lip, but I thought that would look more accurate. And then I just decided to do the bottom teeth starting from those teeth and going downwards. I mean, any way you choose to do your teeth is fine, and after that I just went back with a very, very thin brush and kind of outlined it just to make sure all my lines were nice and clean. Alright, so on this part, what we're going to be doing is outlining the bottom of our jaw to make it look like the skull. You're going to want to start a little bit above your chin to give it a slightly smaller look, because the skull is smaller than your face, and then you kind of want to run along the edge of your jaw and kind of curve it up into the jaw part that you did earlier. I decided to cover the back parts with black just so that I could kind of give it more of a 3D effect, which I then use a beauty blender or a kind of sponge, anything you really have. You could even use toilet paper or a finger for this, and you just kind of blend that out. I decided to blend out the hollows of my cheeks and around the mouth, and then I even went so far as to decide to kind of pull down with some lines because I was following the texture on the picture. However, you do not have to do this because it is very easy to mess up. And then I kind of blended out the eyes and pulled down some of that color, which at this point the makeup is pretty easy to blend. And I followed the shape of this crown part of the skull and then added the crease lines above the eyes, because Ghost Rider has a very angry expression on his face a lot of the time. So, alright, and then what you're going to do is round out the cheeks like it would be on the picture. Like I said, Ghost Rider is a pretty accurate skull from what I've seen, and then I just kind of went back over some lines, which I occasionally do, and I decided to put in a little bit more detail around the mouth. I extended the bottoms of the teeth down, and then I decided to do some cross hatching like I saw on the picture. A lot of what I do with the little markings is what I see on the pictures. It's basically kind of just a few slash lines, which are usually used to suggest shadow, and then I just went back in and, you know, filled in some lines and then added a little more. So if you don't feel like you need to do that step, that's completely up to you. And this part is actually not necessary, but I figured I should try it anyway. In the picture, it shows Ghost Rider has these two glowing orbs of light for eyes. So I decided to try to see if I would like it or not. I mean, this is a completely optional part of the makeup. I basically just took a red and a yellow and kind of blended them together on my lids. It was kind of hard to see against the black, but... And then another optional step is adding in some fire around the face, because, like I said before, I do not have a bald cap, but fortunately my hair is kind of orange, which sort of looks like fire, but I decided to add in just kind of the hint of flames around my face just to kind of give it the whole Ghost Rider look. Alright guys, now that concludes my tutorial on Ghost Rider. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. This makeup was a really fun one for me to do because Ghost Rider is one of my favorite characters, and if you guys would like to comment and let me know what you'd like to see next, that would be awesome. See you guys soon.